it's Dragon again, back for the final release of the DemonSpawn faction review. This time we're going to do the rares. This one should be fairly short, but there's actually a couple heroes of interest here. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now we're getting into the rares. Is Diabloist, and everyone knows about her because they drop relentlessly from map 12 in campaign. As far as her kit goes, we're not going to spend too much time on her. Her A1 has a very low chance that you can book up to 20, placing a sleep debuff, single target, one hit, so nothing special. Her A2 is an AoE that also does an increased speed buff on all your allies, so that's early to mid game speed buff right there. And I'm sure it's very applicable when it comes to DemonSpawn Faction Wars. And her A3 is a turn meter increase by 15% for all your allies, and a decreased turn meter by 15% for all the enemies. It's 6 turn, but you can book it down to 4, so it's not overly powerful. But if you're going to utilize her, I would say that her A2 and her A3 need to be booked. But since she's a farmable character, that shouldn't be very hard. I have seen her a lot in early to mid game arena, so that's a little evidence that she does work. As far as her stats go, she has 18,000 HP. That's pretty decent base. 1,000. That's since her skills scale off attack. That's about an average attack stat. She has an amazing. She has amazing speed for a rare for sure. 110 base speed. She is a speed monster, and that's kind of the comps that she leans towards, the speed comps. Nothing else in her stats or altered any based on her role. So all in all, I gave Diabloist, based as a rated off of rares in DemonSpawn, I gave her a B-. She's definitely someone that can bring utility to a lot of different teams. The speed is key in raid, so her kit, it kind of pops out as someone that you can put into almost any speed comp or any kind of team comp, especially a speed comp. Our next one is Tormentor, and to be honest, I don't have much to say about him. He doesn't his kit didn't come off as anything too useful. He does some attacking, but he doesn't have a great attack stat. I mean, he's okay for a rare. His A3 is kind of interesting. 2 hit, single target, and each hit has a 50% chance of placing a block buff, and then it places a stun if the target does end up under a block buff debuff. So that has a little bit of use for it, but honestly, I didn't see anything that that really makes Tormentor all that usable. I gave him a D-. The only thing that saves him from an F is his A3, and nothing great there. The next one is Houndspawn, and now we're actually this and the next hero are kind of interesting. They're part of the tandem hero group. I'll show you that in a minute. His A1 is attacks one enemy with a 20%, which is fairly low, to place a stun. As an A1, I mean, I guess that could be usable in Faction Wars, a dungeon if you really want to run him. The only way I would do that is early to mid level dungeons for the trash waves, and he would have to pair with his tandem hero, which I will show you in a minute. His A2 is a 2-hit single target that has a 50% chance of placing the big version decreased defense, which makes him kind of useful when it comes to force keep. He is a force hero, so he don't have to worry about weak hits or anything like that. Makes him a little bit usable. And his A3 is his tandem skill. That's only available when Hellfang, his tandem hero, is on the same team. It's an AoE that will ignore defense and block damage buffs if the target has a freeze debuff, which sounds kind of situational, and it is. But like I said earlier, you'd only really want to run him in pretty much of anything, unless you really need a defense down hero for force keep. You'd only want to run him if you're running his tandem hero. For a rare, his stats are kind of average. He does have a fairly high attack, and he has a little bit of additional crit damage. So, he's an attack-based hero that's built to do a little attack, but he is a little squishy and slow. So going to his partner is Hellfang. He is another tandem hero, and he has a tandem skill as well. His A1 is a little more interesting than his partner. He has attack one enemy with a 15% chance that you can book up to 20% chance of putting the target skills on cooldown. That's all of his. That's all skills, so it kind of makes him a little more usable when it comes to like arena. Um, his A2 is a single target that has a 50% chance of placing the 25% weaken. So him and his partner put together does the big version of defense down and the big version of weaken. They really kind of emphasize the synergy between each other. And his A3 is what is really the power in his kit. It's an AoE. Oh, it's his tandem skill, so it's only available when Hound spawns on the same team. But it's an AoE that has a 50% chance that you can book up to 80% chance of placing a freeze debuff for one turn. That's AoE. That is very good when it comes to trash waves and trash waves in dungeons and arena. So you kind of put them together. He is an attack hero too. Has reasonable attack stats and speed stat for a rare. So them two coming together might actually make your team a lot better. And I'm not exactly sure about Hellfang, but I know that Houndspawn is a farmable hero from campaign. His aura is an all ally attack in dungeons by 21%. That's pretty strong for a rare. So and him and his partner are both attack based heroes, so that kind of synergizes with that whole thing. In his kit, the only things that really alter, that are really worth note, he has a reasonable attack. His defense ain't too bad for a rare, but it's a little on the light side. He has pretty good speed, and he has 7% more crit damage. Going on to the next one's Marquise. Again, kind of like Tormentor, one of the ones that really didn't pop out to me none. Her A1 is the small version of decreased attack, so nothing special there. Her A2 is an AoE with a small version of weaken, and it deals extra damage to enemies with the weaken buff. So if you already have weaken in your team comp somewhere, she do additional damage. Still nothing that great. And then her A3 is kind of the stronger skill of her kit. Attack one enemy with a 75 that you can book up to 100% chance of placing a freeze debuff for one turn. In arena, that could be something real good. You freeze that big threat that's on the enemy team. And then her aura is Faction Wars ally defense for 15%. So you combine that with the freeze and the AoE weaken, she could be viable for Faction Wars. Since she is a defense hero, she has some pretty decent defense stat, and honestly for a rare in DemonSpawn, she has some pretty good HP. She has pretty bad speed though. She's pretty slow, and she has a little bit of accuracy. Other than that, nothing special. Overall, I gave her a D. The saving grace was her A3 and her aura, and that's just for Faction Wars. Alright, going to our next is Ifrit. And to be honest, this is probably one of the worst heroes in the game. I have pretty much nothing good to say about him, and he is the only one that received an F in DemonSpawn. His kit is basic, small version of weaken, small version of attack down, and it increases the damage, kind of scales off of his own max HP, so you'd have to really bump his HP up to get any damage out of it. And then his passive is decrease the damage received by 50% if the damage from a single hit exceeds 30%, and then places a small version of decreased defense on the attacker if the attack is critical. So very situational for that to even proc. And to be honest, his defense isn't nothing spectacular. Like, his HP is pretty good, but I don't see him being a very sustained tank or anything like that. On another hero, that passive might be something of interest, especially if you get a 60% decreased defense. The best I see him use that is arena. His aura is probably the best thing in his kit, and it's the same thing you get with a starter hero. HP, an ally HP, all battle 15%, so nothing great there. Marquise. There's two of them in here that kind of have similar. He's not bad, I suppose, for a free-to-play early to mid-game account. Single target, single hit. If the hit's critical, it decrease speed. Decrease speed's always good in pretty much all content. He has a counterattack buff and 15% continuous heal buff for 2 turns. That's a 4 turn that you can book down to 2 turns, so technically he could have this up all the time, which is really useful. And then his A3 is an attack on enemies with a 35 that you can book to 50% chance to place a sleep debuff. Sleep is alright. The thing is if they get hit, then it removes the sleep buff. Even though this says the buff cannot be removed, that means it cannot be removed by a skill or ability. If the enemy you put to sleep gets hit, they're gonna wake up. So the sleep debuffs are kind of very situational, honestly. You'd have to make him the last hitter in your team. And his aura is force only. Ally HP by 18%, so again, nothing great. His HP is okay, you know, it's decent for a rare, I guess. He is a defense scaling hero, so he has pretty good defense. His speed is pretty good for a rare as well. Nothing spectacular, but pretty good. He has a little additional resist. Overall, Marquise might be decent for early to free-to-play arena and faction wars, but he will quickly fall off, so I gave him an overall a D. Fellhound. This is one of my another one of my favorites from the DemonSpawn, and definitely the beastiest of the dogs. His kit is pretty much well-rounded. He is also a very universal hero. His A1 is a AoE with a 25% chance that you can book up to 35% chance of placing a small version of decreased speed. But this skill alone right here, when properly built, because it's scales off defense, mainly defense and a little attack. When properly built, this skill alone makes him a viable in-game farmer. It does take a little bit of intense build, but nothing, nothing God gear, nothing like that. You just need to rack up his defense with a little bit of attack and some heavy speed, and of course crit rate, and stack on a little bit of crit damage. So you'd want to get, he's void, so you don't have any 12-3 affinity advantage. You want to get the 100% crit rate, and then get his defense up fairly high, so that way he can take some hits. 2,000 would be probably a solid start. A little bit of attack, 15, 12, 1,500 at least, and stack on some crit damage, and he can be a in-game farmer. His A2 is a small version of continuous heal, 7.5%, and a 15% reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. That's a 4 turn that you can book down to 2 turns, which means he can always have this up. Now, it doesn't seem overly strong, but the thing is, and what kind of gives him another area of the game that he can be viable at, even end game, is reflect damage in Fire Knight. The hits that get reflected off of your heroes counts towards lowering the Fire Knight shield. So reflect damage is OP in Fire Knight. Now you do that with the decreased speed debuff on his A1, and he becomes he's a true threat for in-game Fire Knight. And then on top of that, he has a block damage buff on an ally, a little bit of help for sustain. 4 turn you can book down to 3. So a little bit of helpful sustain there if you find your cold heart to be cold heart for Fire Knight to be a little squishy. You can throw some block damage on her. And then his aura is Faction Wars aura for ally defense by 19%. So very situational there. But over and all, Fellhound is one of my favorites for DemonSpawn. He's a little bit squishy on his HP, but he has some solid defense. He is kind of mediocre, slowish, and he has a little bit of resist. But as far as farming, it's easy to get your farming speed up. As far as Fire Knight goes, you only need him to go through 2 turns before his useful skill is worthwhile. So you don't need to pump too crazy amounts of speed into him. So overall, I think he's a fairly well built without being OP hero. As far as a rare goes, though, he is OP as hell, and I gave him an A-. Alright, last and almost least, we got Maul Branch. Her kit's nothing special. It's another bomb hero. She does have the A1 that decreases detonation countdown by 1 on her A1. Her A2 is a 2-hit A1 that places a counterattack buff on this champion, so nothing all that great. Plus it's 5 turn, only go down to 4, so you got 2 turns of no counterattack there. Her A3 is a single hit, single target with a 60% chance to place a bomb that detonates after 3 turns, so that's fairly terrible, even though you can get it up to 85% chance on a 4 turn. That's not great, and not to mention it's a bomb, so definitely not great. And the best thing of her kit is an arena speed aura by 16%, which still ain't all that strong, but she's a rare, so you can't expect much. Her HP is okay. Her attack's decent for a rare. Defense is squishy. Speed is amazing. But honestly, nothing that screams use me in her kit at all. Um, Overall, just because if you're going to build a bomb team, she has the decreased detonation. She has a little bit of self counter attack, which is cool, but really it's her aura, her arena aura. So if you're gonna build a bomb team in arena, she has the aura, she has the reduced detonation count, and she can place fairly reliable on placing a bomb once every 4 turns. So nothing all that great, but I gave her a C minus. That sums it up for the DemonSpawn faction review. I hope you guys enjoyed this and found it informative. I'm going to make this into a little series, so why don't you drop me a comment down at the bottom of the next faction you want reviewed, and I'll try and get it up as soon as possible. Until then, happy grinding, and may the shards break in your favor.